of revolution is sharpened on the wedding stone of ideas. Yes, I do believe that. We can't protect a nation with the help of bombs and pistols. But we have to adapt the different ideas, rules and methods on different topics that also affect our national security. Human rights are also important. Human rights are the basic rights and freedom that belong to every person in the world. From birth until death, they can never be taken away. But in some situations, they can be restricted. Being a member of Central Armed Police Force, I am very well aware of my duties and also know the importance of human rights. Human rights, we all are introduced with a very common faith, that is 10 exemptions should be left without an innocent one. But following the principle, we give real culprit many times, which can prove to be fatal for our nation later. What wrong if security forces use their legal power to curtail one's human right and protect human right of hundreds of people? Human right of a person can be curtailed if he is working against the unity and integrity of that nation. Sir, many times we prove our duty in protecting our nation's security, peace and pride. If we start thinking for human rights first, then I have doubt for us proper safety and immediate protection to the nation in any vulnerable situation may not be possible. I can prove my views with some of very common examples which may be presented against you again and again. We have example of 26/11. What happened there? Was it not necessary to kill them all? Yes, we do so. We killed them all. Because they were killing our innocent people without calculating anything and had attack on the pride of our nation. If we had go through the rule book of human rights that time, was it possible to protect our nation immediately? Sir, we are protecting our nation from different kind of liberation that want to breach our nation's security with the help of separatists, with the help of those people who have left-wing thinking, or people who want to destroy discipline and decorum of our society. These criminal-minded people who doesn't have sense of peace, humanity and culture and also don't know the importance of life, then why should we once think before targeting them? Does we need to take care of these nonsense people's human rights first? No. Sir, India is globally known for its peaceful and friendly behavior. We never initiate any war-type situation first. We always give support to our neighboring countries, which sometimes may lead to threat for our nation's security. It is well said by Mr. Tim Cook, CEO of Apple, that national security obviously matters. But reality is that if you have an open door in your software for good guys, the bad guys get therein too. Sir, I can explain this. We have example of refugees of Bangladesh. Our doors were open for them. But when these people start creating crowd-creating problems or challenge our national security in the shade of communal rights, then we will not think for their human rights. Recently, Rohingya refugees were welcomed in our places. Again, our national security, peace and pride and rights of our people in critical and dangerous situations. So it is totally proved that thinking for national security first may cost to our thinking of human rights first may cost to our national security, which is not good at all for the rest of our population. For a few disturbed human beings, ill-minded or misguided people, we can't take risk at all for the rest of our population. We have to take care of internal system to give advanced security. We have to take care of communal rights, discrimination, political imbalance, cyber security and public safety. And there should be no human rights offense for all those who are involved in these kind of activities. Sir, personally I believe that our existence is because of nation, and our rights, whether fundamental, legal or human rights, will be there when there will be a nation. At the end of the day, I will say the limits of human rights are inevitably the limits of people. To take responsibility, to guarantee. More you ask for, more it costs. At the end of the day, goals are very simple. Safety and security. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
From BSF, second speaker is Assistant Commandant Sri Devashish Panda, and he will be speaking against the motion.
May I start, sir? Should freedom be restricted to ensure freedom? I must be wrong here if I vouch for human rights over national security blatantly. But what we fail to understand, that in any democratic country, protection of human rights is central to national security. What we fail to understand is how the violation of human rights imperils security rather than securing it. To have a take on this, I, Devashish Panda from Border Security Force, will be presenting my views against the motion. In a country like India, the concept of democracy is indeed unique, with its vast pluralism based on population of myriad tribes and communities. The uniqueness can be captured through those years after independence in 1947, when the public life was lit up by the promise of democracy after British colonial rule. The public imagination was ignited by the promise of justice, equality, and freedom. But unfortunately, even after 71 years of independence, India has been plagued by numerous challenges, and internal security challenge being the major of them. In order to strike a connection between security and human rights, I would like to throw some light on the present trend of internal security that exists in India. While examining, the year 2008 stands apart as the year of violent clashes and incidents, the most devastating of which was the terror attack of Mumbai and the attack in Guwahati in November 30. As per the status report on internal security presented by the Ministry of Home Affairs, it had prophetically presented a grim picture unless and until the Indian state and the society took concrete, proactive steps to root out violence from within India by an equitable program of development for all. To add salt to the wound, cross-border terrorism, Maoist insurgency, ethnic clashes of Northeast, specifically in Assam, have evolved as major security challenges for a country like India. National security policy, by definition, implies the formulation and implementation of a national strategy which involves the use of force, such that a favorable environment can be created for the achievement of national values and interests. While formulating such a policy, one must remember that national security and human rights go hand in hand. The violation of one will ultimately lead to the violation of the other. There are usually two dimensions to this. First being the physical dimension, implies the military capabilities of the state to deter any kind of internal dissent. It also includes the intelligence agencies as well as the growth pattern of the state. The second dimension is more of psychological in nature, which implies the willingness of the people to support the efforts of the government to achieve the national values and interests. Some of the very potent reasons behind the solidification of Naxalism, which was described as one of the biggest threats by the then Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, are religious inequalities and minority struggle. Second being the caste-based discrimination and gender inequalities. One must remind here the exploitation and sexual victimization of Adivasi people living in Salwa Judum camp of Chhattisgarh. And third being the agrarian situation of the country, and of course the special economic zone and the development induced displacements. The socio-economic cause has been the major contributor towards the armed dissent in India. As per the status report by the expert committee which was set up by the then Planning Commission, it had listed some of the reasons like severe displacement, forest-related issues, loss of land, and of course extreme low level of Human Development Index as some of the very important reasons behind armed dissent. As per the status report by the Ministry of Tribal Affairs, the scheduled tribes in India have been suffering from a deep sense of deprivation as well as alienation. So we as security forces are doing no justification here if we say, what do you people expect us to do when we see some Naxals planting an IED in the stomach of a constable? What we fail to understand is that any action based on brute force by the police forces will further alienate the local people. The gathering of thousands in the funeral of a terrorist is certainly a thing to ponder out. Lastly, I would say, India is a plural democracy based on the concept of constitutional liberalism. But when it comes to people's rights, the idea of or the practice of democracy in India has not lived up to the spirit of idea of constitutional liberalism. So it's time for the state and its security forces to think one step ahead and to keep the delicate link between security and fundamental rights or the protection of human rights intact, such that the idea of a nation can be achieved in true sense. Jai Hind, Jai.
The final and the fourth team in this competition is of Assam Rifles. The speaker in favor of the motion is Havildar Weber Patil.
We, the people of India, recognize that we have responsibilities as well as rights.
that our destinies are bound together, that our freedom without a commitment to others, a freedom without love or charity or duty or patriotism is unworthy of our founding ideals and those who died in their defense. Respected presiding officer, jury committee, participants and audience, I, Vaibhav Patil, on behalf of Assam Rifles, strongly support the motion today. I won't hesitate for a single second to say it loud and clear that national security is above all. You cannot compare human rights with it. Human rights are defined, codified, they are profoundly local and reside in every individual. And government across are enforcing them as their own anti-lynching laws. However, national security is a concept that not only hasn't been defined, rather it's a psychological state. National security is the security of nation, including citizen, economy, and is regarded as duty of one and all. I repeat, one and all. It is best described as the capacity to control those domestic and foreign conditions that governs the public. Boundaries of our nation are porous. In addition, smaller the threat, less safer we are against it. We no longer live in the world of mutually assured destruction. 9/11 is live example of break of national security, where it became merely rallying cry thereafter. When we adore this prestigious uniform, we pledge to pay any price, bear any burden, make any hardship, and oppose any foe that threatens our national security. We are a highly professional force and have operated in conflict zones in the country and abroad for decades. Be it Kashmir or in the northeast, where at least half a dozen long-running insurgencies have kept us engaged for long. We have seen it all. In addition, I am proud to state that despite this, we are the largest contributor to the UN peacekeeping operation in trouble spot throughout the world and still maintain the high status of saving human rights at the same time. Today, I want to take this opportunity to elaborate the problematic role that courts have played in enforcing the human rights when they are confronted with the government-asserted national security interests. Every citizen of India enjoys a right to freedom, speech, liberty. It's a basic fundamental right. But few anti-national elements make these as a shield to propagate racism, casteism, extremism, which leads to bigger challenge for nation like terrorism, extortion, Naxalism, and many unbearable orchestras. The security forces are hands-on force, taking utmost care to avoid collateral damage, even at the risk of letting a terrorist to escape. The security forces does give the terrorists an opportunity to surrender and ensure no collateral damage is caused to life and property of civilians. Some do surrender, most don't, and those who don't get killed in firefight. So, is this to be termed as human rights violations? No, sir. It's the necessity of our profession. The security forces, in order to protect the nation and in larger public interest, are compelled to retaliate and react, which may lead to a civil casualty. And terrorists waste no time in exploiting the same on the name of human rights violation, for undermining the image of security forces in the eyes of local populace, and by raising the question on entirety of national security. Unfortunately, today, on the name of human rights, some anti-national elements or separatists are trying to malign the image of nation by supporting the cause of terrorism across the nation. And I feel there is no harm in replying to these anti-social elements in the language that they best understand. That's what the nation is supposed to do, and that's what we are doing. Freedom fighters like Subhash Chandra Bose, Veer Savarkar, Chandrasekhar Azad, Bhagat Singh, Ashfaq Ullah Khan, and many others who gave utmost priority to the nation's pride and security over their personal self-motive, even when all their basic fundamentals rights were compromised with. They never gave fighting for the nation's independence. And that's exactly what we need to do today also. We need to stand together, stand united for nation against these blood-sucking termites of terrorism, Naxalism. Until and unless we think big, we take pride in being citizens of this country, give priorities to others and lend support for our forces, we cannot get free of the such cycles of national threat. To survive in peace and harmony, united and strong, we need to have one people, one nation and one flag, free from the atrocities of self-interest. I once again reiterate, sir, that national security is above all, above any personal cause, because a country is where people live together, follow a common law, and have the zeal to die for a common flag. At last, I would like to conclude by saying, let us form one body, one heart, and defend the last warrior of our country, this to save the pious sacrifices of our forefathers, by strengthening the common cause of national security and integrity, even if it takes the last drop of our blood. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
The final speaker in the English category is from Assam Rifles, Rifleman HTNL will be speaking against the motion.
I chose security force as my profession to embrace humanity, and human rights is a golden link that gracefully harnesses me to accomplish my duty in the true valor. Respected chief guests, chairperson, jury members, co-participants and audience, I, Rifleman HTNL of Assam Rifles, strongly oppose the motion. For supporting national security over human rights is like keeping your family in a rigid building, protecting them from thieves, dacoits, while you yourself abuse them inside the building. Being a soldier, having pledged to protect my country and its citizens, I can't compromise with the human rights at any cost. To support this and to clarify doubts of my dear opponents, I would like to elaborate the following points. Firstly, unlike before, today our country has become a country of rapists, impunity, unaccountability and repressive politics. Being the largest contributor in UN peacekeeping, it's a disgrace that we are not safe in our own country. Even human rights activists and lawyers are arrested for defending the vulnerable and minorities. The constitutional rights of Article 14 to 30 are violated on daily basis. It's undeniable that law and order of our nation is deteriorating and national security has become a pretext for suppressing individuals' rights. Secondly, to deny people their human rights is to challenge their very humanity. When your human rights are taken away, you have neither freedom nor security. But today it's downheartening to hear my opponents saying that the protection of physical boundaries and elimination of anti-national elements are more important than the rights and life of our countrymen. I would like to tell them that this world exists on humanity. A nation is said to be truly secure only when every citizen enjoy their basic fundamental rights. Thirdly, when human rights is not given priority, the devastating scenario of killing innocents while neutralizing militants or terrorists will continue. Sir, what could be more painful than a mother losing her innocent son just because of avoidable mistakes done by security forces on the name of national security? At the same time, seeing the plight of Kashmir and Northeast, it is no secret that the civilians are shot dead as the first and foremost action for curbing protests. This only cultivates the seed of agitations, humiliation and aggressiveness in the hearts and minds of our countrymen. In the fourth place, history is evidence that whenever human rights are tampered with, nations have lost control on their citizens, such as rise of Maoists, deadly riots of Bombay, Gujarat, Kashmir, naked protests of Manipuris, and violent protests in various states, resulting in deaths and casualties of both security forces and the civilians. If we don't protect the rights of our countrymen, then for whom are we fighting for national security? For these are the people that bring a nation into being, that bring democracy into being. Moreover, nations like Iraq, Syria, and North Korea are powerful nations, but also known as a nation of racist force, because there exists no human rights in such countries. The citizens are compelled to flee from the country, leaving their house, lands, and properties, even though they have to live the life of a poor refugee. I want to ask the House, do you want the same plight for Indians as well? In addition, we have to know that the strategy of our enemies is to instigate us to respond in a manner that reinforces their narratives, feed their recruitment, and support their plans of actions which they can easily propagate to the civilians when human rights are violated. I would reiterate by saying that there will be peace, harmony, democracy.